Imagine a world on the brink of nuclear war, and a single blinking light sends the first ripple of panic through a top-secret command bunker. Hundreds of incoming warheads suddenly appear on U.S. radar screens, triggering a chain reaction of alarms no one can ignore. Every officer in the missile control room freezes, staring at consoles that seem to predict the end of the world. A single hand hovers over the launch key, trembling as the countdown to retaliation begins in their minds. The room is a maze of blinking lights, old analog monitors, and rotary telephones, each reflecting the fear etched on every face. Technicians glance at one another, disbelief in their eyes, as green radar blips multiply across the screens. Panic rises as the first printed datasheets revealed trajectories of what could be hundreds of incoming nuclear missiles. Red emergency lights flash in rhythm with racing hearts, creating shadows that stretch across the tense faces of military officers. Every mechanical switch and control panel becomes a potential trigger, amplifying the invisible weight of human error. An officer's sweat glistens under the soft glow of overhead lamps, eyes locked on a monitor that refuses to lie. Time seems to slow as the team processes the impossible. The world might be seconds from annihilation. In a Soviet-style submarine far below the ocean, the same panic mirrors across sonar screens. Officers frozen mid-reaction, blinking radar screens, cables snaking across floors, and the faint hum of machinery make the bunker feel like a ticking time bomb. Fingers frantically trace missile trajectory lines on printed charts, searching for patterns in chaos. Every eye in the room is glued to a screen that tells a story of doom no one can confirm. The faint glow of emergency lights highlights trembling hands poised over launch keys, each decision monumental. Steel doors separate the officers from corridors echoing with the hum of machines and the weight of the impossible choice. A single 46-cent ship sits at the heart of this near catastrophe, its tiny error magnified by a massive system. Relief is unimaginable yet impossible to grasp as the first signs of a false alarm ripple through tense faces. For a moment, the world pauses, teetering between total destruction and the quiet realization that human fragility nearly became history. Red alert lights flash relentlessly as hands hover over keys, every officer feeling the invisible pressure of decisions they may never forgive themselves for. Technicians type frantically on old keyboards, desperately trying to confirm what the radar screens insist is real. From above, the control room looks like a living organism, each officer a nerve reacting to the overwhelming stress. Sweat drips, hearts race, and the constant blinking of consoles creates a hypnotic rhythm of impending disaster. Phones ring endlessly, each vibration echoing the tension coursing through the bunker. The radar blips seem to multiply with each second, as if the system itself is feeding fear back to its operators. Even the mechanical switches and analog dials seem alive, carrying the weight of a potential apocalypse. A technician grips a faulty chip, the tiny part now holding the fate of millions in its circuitry. Far below the ocean, sonar screens on a submarine mirror the same panic, proving that fear respects no boundary. The spinning dials, the blinking lights, and the scattered charts all scream the same terrifying message: act or perish. Officers cluster around map tables, trying to visualize the impossible, trajectories of missiles that may never exist. Fingers hover over launch keys, each second stretching into eternity as the possibility of catastrophe looms. Every glance exchanged between officers carries silent questions. Are we about to make history or end it? Shadows cast by overhead lamps exaggerate the smallest movements, making even hesitation look monumental. Printed charts scatter across desks as frantic hands trace the paths of missiles that may be phantom threats. The hum of machines and the glow of monitors fill the room with an electric tension that no one can ignore. Overhead lamps create soft pools of light, illuminating faces etched with fear, disbelief, and responsibility. The tiny chip, worth mere cents, is the unlikely villain in this drama that could have ended the world. Relief begins to ripple through the room as technicians begin to understand the numbers were false. For a brief moment, the silence is deafening, and officers can finally comprehend how close they came to global catastrophe. Hands hover over launch keys, trembling as officers struggle to comprehend whether they are witnessing reality or a system's cruel trick. The radar blips continue to multiply, forcing every mind in the room to process impossible numbers in mere seconds. Even from above, the control room looks frozen, officers paralyzed by uncertainty and responsibility. Dim corridors echo with tension, each shadow a reminder of the lives at stake. Printed trajectory charts are traced repeatedly, desperate eyes searching for any sign of error. Technicians point at screens in disbelief, each blip on the radar carrying the weight of potential nuclear war. Rotary phones ring insistently, their shrill tone adding a soundtrack of panic to the room. Steel doors seal the officers in, amplifying the sense of isolation as the world outside hangs in the balance. The spinning analog dials blur as adrenaline surges through the bunker, making each movement feel monumental. Tiny 46-cent chips sit at the center of this storm, the smallest components holding unimaginable concept. Once as officers gather around maps, tracing missile paths that may never exist, minds racing against the clock. Fingers hover over launch keys, the room suspended in a moment of pure, anxious anticipation. Every glance between officers carries the unspoken question, are we seconds from history or annihilation? Shadows cast by overhead lamps distort faces, exaggerating every flicker of hesitation into monumental significance. Charts and papers scatter across desks as officers frantically search for clarity in a room full of uncertainty. The hum of machines and flicker of monitors fill the room with palpable tension. Overhead lights illuminate faces etched with fear, disbelief, and the crushing responsibility of potential annihilation. The tiny chip, no larger than a coin, proves that even the smallest errors can have unimaginable consequences. Relief slowly spreads as technicians trace the source of the false alerts, realizing that the threat was never real. The bunker falls silent, officers catching their breath, absorbing the fact that humanity narrowly avoided disaster. Trembling hands hover over keys, every officer acutely aware that a single mistake could have catastrophic consequences. The radar blips seem endless, each one a phantom threat magnified by adrenaline and fear. From above, the control room appears frozen in a tableau of tension and relief, every officer etched with disbelief. Dim corridors echo with the hum of machinery, the shadows still long as adrenaline gradually ebbs. Printed missile trajectory charts are scrutinized repeatedly, desperate eyes searching for any sign of error. Technicians point frantically at screens, each blip now a test of nerves and precision. Rotary phones ring incessantly, their shrill tone heightening the sense of imminent danger. Steel doors close off the control room, isolating officers from the outside world in ample. Defying the pressure, analog dials spin rapidly, each movement a reminder of how fragile these systems and human decisions truly are. A tiny 46-cent chip holds the weight of global security, its failure almost triggering an irreversible catastrophe. Officers gather around maps, tracing what could have been, absorbing the enormity of their close call. Fingers slowly lift from launch keys, a collective exhale of relief spreading across the room. Eyes meet across the room, silent acknowledgement of just how close humanity came to disaster. Shadows cast by overhead lights now seem less menacing, yet the memory of fear lingers in every face. Data sheets, once tools of panic, now serve as evidence of human vulnerability and the importance of vigilance. The hum of monitors fades slightly, but the knowledge of near catastrophe continues to resonate in the room. Soft light illuminates exhausted faces, highlighting disbelief, relief, and the gravity of what almost occurred. That tiny chip becomes a symbol of how small errors can have unimaginable consequences in a high-stakes world. Slowly, the officers relax, understanding that swift thinking, diligence, and a bit of luck prevented disaster. Silence finally settles over the bunker, a quiet testament to how close humanity came to catastrophe and how fragile the line between panic and survival truly is. Trembling hands slowly withdraw from the launch keys, each officer realizing how narrowly they escaped a decision that could have ended the world. Radar blips continue to glow faintly, a haunting reminder of the phantom threat that almost became reality. The control room, once a hub of panic, now seems suspended in quiet disbelief. Officers staring at screens that no longer terrify, Dim corridors are empty, yet the echoes of adrenaline and fear linger in every shadow. Printed missile trajectories lie untouched, reminders of a kriss. That was never real but could have been fatal. Technicians carefully inspect consoles, the tiny 46-cent chip now exposed as the unlikely culprit of near annihilation. Rotary phones remain silent, their former urgency replaced by the heavy weight of reflection.